we go straight into our program, the agenda. But before I do that, I would like to recognize members of the House table here. We have on our far left, Honorable Joseph Harper, Deputy Managing Director for Operations, Transmission and Distribution, LEC, Liberia Legislature Corporation. Next to him, we have Honorable Paul Lange, Deputy Minister for Technical Services, Ministry of Public Works. And then we have Mr. Shaka Dennis, Deputy Chief Executive Officer, Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia. After him, we have Mr. Kevin George, Deputy Resident Country Director, Millennium Challenge Corporation. And then we have Sir Tandapoli, who is representing Honorable Dante Sai, Deputy Managing Director for Technical Services, Liberia Water and Sewer Corporation. So we're going to our program. Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia, MCA, training on resource-based monitoring, evaluation, and compact project activities, right here at the Toliver Palace. And the training runs from June 27th today to the 29th Friday. For this day, day 1, Wednesday, June 22nd, 2018. And we start with our welcome and opening remarks. I'm now pleased to welcome Mr. Shaka Dennis, who will give a brief remark.
And welcome this morning to the workshop for monitoring and evaluation. As you know, the Millennium Challenge Corporation of the United States has granted Liberia $257 million for improvements in energy and roads. So monitoring and evaluation is an important part of assessing whether those interventions are successful. And also, as part of the compact, we have an obligation to also train our various partners in the implementing entity agreements. Those partners are Ministry of Public Works, Liberia Water and Sewer, EPA, and LEC. So with that today, represented here are representatives of those various institutions, and the purpose is to build capacity for data collection, for monitoring, and for reporting.
Honorable Deputy Minister Todd Langley, and also to Sar Queen, as well as my friend and the Deputy Chief Executive Officer of the Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia, Shaka Dennis. I am really pleased to be here today at the beginning of the workshop. And as Shaka said, the Millennium Challenge Corporation and the Government of Liberia are partners in the effort to improve Liberia's economy and to alleviate poverty in the country through the grant of $257 million over a 5-year compact to improve the energy sector as well as the road sector. And when I think about M&E, I can't help but think also about the World Cup, because just how important monitoring and evaluation is to the World Cup. It's very similar to how you approach a development project, a major development project, like what you, the six government agencies are implementing partners on for the Millennium Challenge Account. And without monitoring evaluation for a football team, it's impossible to know how you're doing on a weekly basis, on a game basis. It's impossible to make the corrections that you need to make as a team, as a coach. If your goalie has an inordinate amount of shots on goal, it could either be that you could say, well, the goalie's the problem, or you could say it's the defensive players. And it's probably the defensive players. But you don't know that unless you analyze the statistics. And it's the same way with the projects that are being funded by the Millennium Challenge Corporation. That along the way, you have to make corrections in order to win, in order to become a winning team. And in the long term, you also want to evaluate the results of the project. And that's why monitoring and evaluation is just so very, very important. It's one thing for the Millennium Challenge Corporation to say, we'd like to know how the money of U.S. taxpayers is being spent, and that it's being spent wisely and successfully. But it's even more important for you as the staff of government agencies responsible for monitoring and evaluation to be able to show that your teams are working effectively together and producing results for the people of Liberia.
This is Director of Operation and Acting Deputy Managing Director for Technical Services at Water and Sewer. Honorable Minister, Deputy Minister for Technical Services, members of the full estate, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. Indeed, it is a great pleasure and honor for me to be here on this great occasion. This occasion is to serve a 3 days training for MNE. Mr. Dan Sai is not here. He's traveled on some official duty, so I've been asked to deputize him. I just want you to allow me to express our thanks and appreciation to MCA. They are one of our great partners and about to take a great initiative for us. But I would like to stress the purpose of this training, which is to highlight the policies and designs to help MCC and its partners to estimate and to track estimate that are to implement program using technical, systematic, and transparent methods. It is also there as a principle for accountability. So those of you that are here for this training, that is the purpose of it. And as we said, taxpayer money of the U.S. government need to be controlled at every point in time. So we being the recipients of aid, we must go through this training so that we can know how and when to track these projects.
Well, on behalf of LEC, the CEO and the management of LEC, welcome here. We cannot overemphasize the need to continue to monitor and evaluate our activities. LEC, our core business, our responsibility is to provide you reliable and affordable electricity. So for us to be reliable, it means we have to continue to look at our programs, look at our reporting and see how we can amend them to, suit whatever we supply to you. To some extent in LEC, we pride ourselves to say we now have, for the time being, sufficient generation. To some extent, reliable. But the first quarter of the next fiscal year, we want to move to see how we can reduce our response time, how long it takes us to receive complaints from customers, and how long we solve them. So we can only do that if we monitor and evaluate the various processes in our operation. So whether it's generating siding and siphoning report, whether it's with the commercial guys, how we put all of them together will help us achieving this. So I'd like to say welcome. Those that represent LEC here, take this very seriously. We rely on you for the kind of report that you generate, the kind of monetary evaluation that you do to help our work, so that at least we know which field are doing better than the other, which type of customers we need to focus on.
Much has been said concerning this workshop. I want to take this opportunity to say thanks to the Millennium Challenge and the organizers who have contributed to this. This is, I think, one of the best things that can happen at this point. As I think you can see from the information, I'm of the rural sector. And I know everybody around here is listening to the news every day about almost $1 billion put into roads that we intend to at least start work on in the next couple of months. Now, I think the doubts that the public may have or others may have regarding this project is the fact that transparency, accountability, and value for money are the concerns. And how do we get there? For those of you who probably know me, I think you hear every day, Minister Land is always causing a lot of trouble, say he won't sign this, he won't sign that. It's true. Because I personally believe the designs, the programs that you put up for these different projects, they all look pretty. We're good at doing that. But the reality is we have a deficit when it comes to monitoring and supervision, when it comes to maintenance. And I think that's been one of our problems, and it's still the problem. So I'm actually elated today that MCC, the partners, I think they've recognized this. They're heavily into the maintenance aspect, and other people, GIZ and all these different groups. The reality is we can continue to build, and we continue to build all the time. But when it comes to maintaining, we have a real serious problem. So whether we accept it or not, our focus at this point, if we look at the equation, bring the money, bring the nice designs, hire the best company, at the end of the day, if we don't have the capacity to monitor and to supervise these different works, whether it be energy, whether it be road work, whether it be water, we do have a problem. It's a serious problem. Most times the public may not understand it, but I think for those of you sitting in this meeting, you really understand what it means. When you can go out to a project, spend $1 million, actually, technically, whatever we want to do, that we've actually spent our time and money to get the best results. Finally, I'll say to this, and for those of the people at Public, I always say this. The contractor is always good. His intentions are always good. But remember this. People don't go into business to lose money. People go into business to earn money. So even if you do the best package, you do the bid, you do the evaluation, and you select a company, and this company decides to submit a proposal, and figure, well, at the end of the day, when I do everything right, I may walk away with a $500,000 profit or $200,000 profit, and you as the client, the owner, decides to just sit back and let the contractor do what he wants to do. I can almost assure you, guarantee you, the contractor is not an altar boy or a priest. If he finds that opportunity, he figures he can make twice as much profit because you're not paying attention or because you're not monitoring and supervising his work. I can guarantee you he will do it. So again, for those of you who have been chosen to be part of this training, this workshop, I think it's upon you. And you will always find issues, as I do every day, I see it every day. It might be considered too high because you ask too many questions, but that's what's expected of you. At the end of the day, most of what we do, with the exception of few agencies and donors like Millennium, who's giving us $257 million, and others, most of this is coming from the taxpayers' money. The $1 billion we're talking about is not a grant. It's money that's going to be paid back. So, at the end, we have the responsibility. If we decide we are going to just sit back and let it go, and then after 1 year, 2 years, we start getting potholes and everywhere, you've got an issue. You know, this is a subject I don't normally come to these things, but when they said monitoring and supervision, I think is important. I just came back from the Southeast. Now, we've been around for the last 4, 5, 6 years. I've been in the ministry, but this is my 5th year. And you have consistently, if you drive up there, there are certain areas that always go bad this time of the year. What is cut off? And every time it gets cut off, you spend money to repair. So the question is, what's wrong? It's simple. We accept whatever is given to us. We know definitely certain areas. We may have to come in and do a culvert, we may have to do cement stabilization, because we know this is the nature of this area. But we go back in during the dry season and decide, okay, yeah, we just put some laterite, grade it, and make it look nice. And by the time the rain comes, we start streaming again.
Before I provide an overview of the training, I will speak a little bit about the monetary evaluation plans. All compacts around the world are guided by the monetary evaluation plan. That plan sets in place the rationale, the processes, and procedures that govern how a compact should be monitored and evaluated. It is a condition precedent. If it is not put in place, a compact cannot start. The country team that works with the government in preparing the compact works with all sectors to develop the M&E plan. And in that plan, it tells you the program logic, it tells you about the theory of change, it tells you how indicators are defined, how they are selected. It also tells you about the results we want to achieve, how we want to achieve the results. One critical component of the M&E plan is that if the procedures and processes put in place in that plan are not adhered to or followed, a compact may be under serious scrutiny in terms of suspension of funding. That is something that is very critical. So having said that, in the M&E plan, we have different components. We have the monitoring component, we have the evaluation component, then to blend the two, we have capacity building. The capacity building component is what informs this training today. We are here to develop or train you in terms of how MCC wants M&E to be done with the compact. They have what we call the policy of M&E for thresholds and compacts. That document sets in place how you report, what you report, and the issue of material evidence for each data you send to MCC. The result-based component we're talking about is about the outcome level. In the past, most M&E were more or less settled on inputs, processes, and outputs. But for result-based, we are talking about, we are asking ourselves the question, and so what? MCC gave up $257 million. The question is, and so what happened? Okay, we did this, we did that, but what impact it had on the population? So result-based is all about us asking ourselves, did we spend the money that the American people sent? Did we spend it well? How well did we spend that money? What impact or changes it has brought to the livelihood of our people? So result-based is all about accountability, it's all about transparency. This training is going to help us to understand how we report data to MCC, when the data should be reported, in what format, and the level of ownership. We need to understand that this compact is about Liberia. Though MCC provided funding, it is a grant, but the onus is on us to show that level of ownership. If you give MCA the wrong data, we may have the wrong results.
We are from the Energy Directorate of the Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia. We are quite happy to be here. We are also delighted to see this opening session being well attended by various sectors, key relevant sectors. From the energy perspective, the Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia is involved with setting key projects from the energy sector. One of it is the Mancoffey rehabilitation, even though LEC is the accounting entity for that aspect. And we also have our support to the LEC management service contract, the management of LEC, and we also have a support to providing support to the independent regulator to stand up the Liberia Electricity Regulatory Commission. That, in fact, was a condition precedent to the compact funding. So our support also goes towards that. We have sectors or agencies of government relevant to the energy sector, the LEC, the MME, and other areas are present here, so that at least whatever training that's going to be provided, at least will benefit from this training and will be in a position to apply them. As the MME aspect of our compact is very important and very key. We hope that whatever that's going to be understood here, especially in terms of the MME concepts and principles, in terms of the program logic, as you mentioned, and the logical framework, as well as the data quality issues and how to mitigate these ones. And in terms of data collection, analysis, reporting, whatsoever.
I'm Victor Stewart, Director of Roads, Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia. Trying to address one of the two binding constraints to economic growth, reducing poverty in our beloved Republic of Liberia. Deputy Minister Langley has pretty much touched on the essence of what happens in the roads project, the necessity for monitoring, evaluating, for quality, and one of the reasons, the primary thrust of my program right now is trying to implement a system that will be there for sustainability. Okay, we have roads, we don't take care of them. One of the worst enemies to roads in the Republic of Liberia is the tremendous amount of rainfall we have. Okay, coupled by the fact that we don't have the best designs or the best implementation, the best construction practices, we don't use the best materials. Right? My program, the compact program, is to implement a system of maintenance. To do here is to implement a system where that's based on collecting verifiable data. Okay, we look at the condition of the road, we look at the location, we look at the economic benefit to the people in the community, and then put together a 5-year plan that says, okay, this year you have to do these roads. And every year we collect new data and that plan is updated. And then the plan will say, if you don't do these roads this year, next year it's going to cost you this much. So it prioritizes all the roads that need to be done over the duration. Now, what we have in place to fund that is the National Road Fund Act, which is basically a fuel levy, a tax on fuel. So the only people that pay for the roads are the ones that buy gas to drive on the roads. All right? Now, unfortunately, that's not entirely true, because a lot of the fuel that being bought goes into generators to produce electricity. So hopefully at some point when LEC is up and running and we don't have that many generators, truthfully the people that buy the fuel will be the ones, the people that use the roads will be the one that actually pay for the maintenance. So it's not disproportionate. You don't have people paying taxes for something that they don't use. The road users will pay for the maintenance.
My primary responsibility is actually supporting, but also monitoring and evaluating the performance of the managing service contractor, which is ESBI International, who's currently managing LEC until the end of the compact, which will end in January 2021. So my primary function is to make sure that the team is sticking to the terms of the contract, primarily expansion of the network, reduction, evidence-based reduction of the tariffs, and more importantly, training the Liberian team to take over management at the end of the compact. So M&E also reviews all of the management team's reports and their plans and ensures that they are sticking to the terms of the contract. And so why this training is really important is because the last missing link is to ensure that, I'm speaking primarily to LEC because that's what I'm focused on, that the internal team members in LEC are also doing their job in monitoring, evaluating, being able to pull out the correct data, being able to properly analyze that data, because that data is the basis of what I and the other consultants are going to be looking at to ensure that the SBI is actually doing what we are paying them to do at LEC. And so I encourage you all to please come for all 3 days and take back what you learn here and implement it as best you can in your day-to-day jobs. Thank you.
I'm Paul Kennedy, Director of Environmental and Social Performance for the Compact's activity. Whatever we do as human beings have the ability to adversely affect our community and the environment and the area we live. From the trash we make to the explosions we do in construction. So our job is to ensure that our activity in developing or conducting or rehabilitating the hydro and building the roads really do not adversely affect the existing communities.
You are aware that the main aim of the compact here is to reduce poverty through economic growth. And you also are aware that inequality and inequity can undermine poverty reduction and economic growth. So for gender and social inclusion, our goal is to make sure that the vulnerable people, the ordinary people, can actually have the opportunity to participate in project activities and also benefit from project opportunities. So our project activities are designed such that we expand the space for these people to have opportunities to participate and benefit from the compact. Because we like to see the gender and social inclusion aspect of the compact as the human face. Because when we work on all the infrastructure, we renovate, maintain the roads, we set up the LEC training center, we rehabilitate the hydro. In the end, we want those things to mean something for the people. If they don't mean anything, if the people cannot benefit from them, then it's not useful. So the goal of all of these is to make sure that we can increase the space, we can create opportunities for poor persons, for women, youth, persons with disabilities, and all other vulnerable groups to have a chance to participate and benefit from project opportunities.
My principal role in the MCA as a Director of Communications is to communicate the results of the implementation that is taking place within the MCA. We use a lot of channels, including website, Facebook, radio, newspapers. We engage stakeholders, government officials, media, to tell them about what is it that we do. Like monitoring and evaluation, communication is an important transparency and accountability tool. Because when you are working somewhere and they're raising information to the public as to what you're doing and communicating the progress and the results, it is difficult for the public to evaluate what is it that you're achieving.
My name is Robert Taylor, Director for MAE, Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection.
My name is Grace Cotton, Minister of Gender, Assistant Director at MAE.
My name is Jerry Silver, MAE Officer of Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection.
My name is Mohammed Sharif, Energy Technician, Ministry of Mines, Energy Department of Energy.
Lofty and Fire. I'm from the Department of Energy, Petroleum Technician.
Tom Boydon Neyman, Ministry of Mines, Energy Department of Energy, and the Northeast Officer.
Otero F. Kana, Environmental Protection Agency.
I'm Victor L. Gray, Head of Liberia Electricity Corporation.
George Nawala from the LEC Commercial Division.
I'm Sienna Davis on the Environmental Protection Agency, CM90 Officer.
I'm Millie M. Williams, LEC Customer Service Manager.
I'm Victor Viva, Manager of Revenue Management at the Liberia Electricity Corporation.
I'm Tony E. Cody, Acting Director of Operation Engineer, Generation Department, LEC.
Jacob A. Sherman, Performance Monitoring LEC.
Pious Grade Project Planning, LEC.
I'm Frida Ma, Assistant Director in the Ministry of Public Works.
Without staying MCA officer, Ministry of Public Works.
For the project, they overstated everything for the million, low income, middle income, high income for county A, B, and C. Everything here was overstated. So as a result, it lacks precision.
Like he said, most of the figures being reported by the project were overstated, and so that lacks precision, clearly stated by the independent review team. So the next thing is number one, which is at the back of the page, the additional issue they uncovered. The first thing there is that the project staff, we can read out, but the issue we identified is that the definition of household was unclear to those that were collecting the data. So the standard being affected is reliability.
You see the exercise, the data collection methodology first was very inconsistent. Every staff reported as they understood individually, and the company own report compared to the quality review team suggested huge inconsistencies. And in summary, that led us to believing that the data, one, was not reliable, two, it has validity problem, not precise, and it has integrity related issue.
The instruments that were used were not reliable. Data collector were poorly trained, so that has to do with that.
Furthermore, we also took note of the methodology that was used. We realized that every field monitor were not trained, and because of that, everyone had to report what they understood from the field.
If we all follow the review, in the table you saw that the figure presented was far higher than the figure after review that we got. So that rendered the entire data submitted inconsistent and invalid.
The instrument was temporary to import integrity problem.
What happened here in 3 days? But I know it was a wonderful experience for you, listening to the speakers. I'm looking forward to looking at the evaluations as well. But I particularly want to say that it's not really the Millennium Challenge Corporation that you need to thank. It's really your brothers and sisters at Millennium Challenge Account-Liberia.
We would like to say thank you to the Millennium Challenge for this wonderful training. We actually enjoy ourselves. We learn a lot. We want to say to you that you did not make a mistake. This was a very, very good thing you did for us. We're going to take it back to where we came from and we're going to implement it.
I would like to extend gratitude to my colleague, Bauer Johnson. Bauer took the lead on organizing this workshop. He worked on all of the materials that were presented here. He sat down for many days and weeks to make sure you have the right material from MCC, from USAID, based on your own experience. And then we had to send it to our counterpart, actually, to make her comments on it. And that's how we're able to have the final product that you have today. So please put your hands together for Howard Johnson. Next, I want to appreciate in a very special way Joshua Suku. Joshua works in the office of the CEO. Unfortunately, our CEO is not here, Mr. Moni Captain. He traveled to DC for an official visit. But to be honest with you, Joshua has been the backbone for supporting power with the administrative issues, making sure we have things in place, all your name tags, the listing, everything that you see we printed. They even print the document, he even advised power on how to go about it to get things done. I'm sorry our procurement folks are not here. We want to also appreciate them, and also the drivers who have been moving things around to make sure we have the place secure. One of the drivers is here, Moses. Thank you very much for the support, and I extend our greetings to Thomas. Another person I want to appreciate is the Army Finance. They were also helpful in making sure we get procurement to support us in getting the place ready. And for me not to waste time, I want to give a special thanks to Mr. Kevin George. Mr. George just took assignment, but he had expressed interest in M&E.